right? As always, the ritual continues. We repeat HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, then JavaScript, very good, then Node, Node.js, excellent. Then what? After Node.js, what did we learn? Express.js, super. So, and now, and last week we started understanding MongoDB, right? We are here to learn MERN because this is your first semester, 2-1, right? So, we might not be looking at React, but we'd like you all to be good at Express and Mongo for sure, right? Basic HTML, Express and Mongo. The backend part, the front end, like we know, can be built using React, can be built using, you must have heard about Angular, right? But the basic front end HTML, CSS, JS, we can use that, the basic one, for creating the front end as well, right? So, with whatever number of classes and sessions we have, we might not be able to cover React. So, we'll still see. If I get another but if I get another session, I'll see if we can cover React. But otherwise, learn React, please. And then we are good too. HTML, CSS, JS is done, right? Middleware. We talked about middleware in Express.js last time in the backend part. We learned Node.js, how to create the backend server. We know how to create the backend server from scratch. We know how to use Express.js and start the server. Do we all know how to change the port? Do we know how to have a different port? Yes? Please make a note to remember to see what are all ports that are already used by your Windows computer, right? There are some ports that are set for certain services that run on your Windows computer. Please go check and please do not use those ports for your Express.js server, right? Ideally, we use CRA for front end, right? Create React app. So the port at which React runs is at 3000, very good. So the port at which Express usually runs, or we give the port number, we give it at 4000 or 5000. It's up to you. Follow the industry norms, please. So that is one thing. Now when you are starting the server, if it's not starting, if it says port already in use, you know how to go and check if there is any other server that you have already started running at a particular port. You have to close that and come back to your current one, current command prompt or current terminal in your VS Code, right? So in Express.js, we looked at different methods, put, get, all those methods. After the methods, we also looked at static, how to make a folder static in using Express.js. Why do we need to make a folder static? Because we don't want to expose file system. Why do we ever need a file system? To read files that are needed for running your backend server. It could be any file, right? It could be, you might be sending some images, or you might be uploading or downloading some images, right? In some of the projects, the front end sends some screenshots and you're supposed to store them on the back end, right? So, but again, you can access them directly using file system, but we don't want to expose the file system. So you make that folder as a static folder, right? Later in your, academia, you will learn how to store the images also in Mongo, right? Some of you might already know, but if the images are really heavy, you might just want to store it on the Express.js server, right? Now, like I said, this is all very project-specific training, right? So now we have, in the last session, we looked at MongoDB. I told you the advantages of MongoDB. We went a little fast, so I'll try to do a quick recap. I hope you all understand what is an RDBMS. You all have DBMS as your subject, so I'll not go too much into detail, right? RDBMS is Relational Database Management System, right? Can you give me an example of an RDBMS? One of the really expensive, really big companies. Which company owns Java? Oracle. So Oracle is, it's up to you how you want to pronounce it. Oracle is one of the biggest companies that has their own database. So when we were working, we used to use a lot of Oracle, but then licenses are now very expensive. So with the open source and with this whole boom of, .com boom and many other things, people needed a simpler, easier. Then came MySQL, which also runs on the same, uses the same SQL language, so structured query language, SQL, for querying the databases. Then came with the e-commerce and everything booming, then came a need of not having a structured database, right, or structured data. The data came in whichever format it came in. based on, let's say, like in e-commerce, like I told you in the last session, if it's a pen, you would have 4 properties. If it's a camera that the e-commerce site is having, it would have 50 or 60. If it is something else, it would have more. So we did not have to create 100 columns in a table, but we could create a MongoDB kind of a document-based database, right? Where you could shrink and the data need not be structured, right? Meaning for one value, for one pen item, you could have only 3 key value pairs. For the camera, you could have 25 key value pairs. Please understand the difference. So there are many other databases, right? Graph databases are also there. They're usually used for maps and nodes and, in your, I don't know, anybody using Facebook still? There are a few who are using Facebook still, which is okay. I'm hoping and assuming and, I'm hoping that it is for bettering the understanding of things. Anyway, not my area to speak. So in Facebook, when you have your friend network or any other place, your friend network, wherever you see a network kind of a thing, it is always, usually, in most cases, it is a graph database. Okay, now let's move on, please. Let's see. We looked at this. Now, what is a database? If you call a storage place where you store data on an RDBMS side, a database, what do you call it in a NoSQL side? What do you call the storage place on the NoSQL side? On the RDBMS side, it is database. On the NoSQL side, it is database. Yeah. Why are you? It's the same thing. We still call database. It was just a question that I asked to see if you are paying attention. Now, next thing, you have a table on the left side, the RDBMS side. Here, what do you have? On MongoDB, where do you store all the information, please? Database, and after database, what is it? Database has many collections. Very good. So you have, on the left you have a table, here you have collections. In that you have tuple, or up to you how you pronounce it, or rows. Here you have what? Documents. Okay. So that is how we have. There we have columns, here we have keys. So it's all very simple. We talked about document-based databases. We talked about I think I shared the PPT with you, RDBMS versus MongoDB. It's a little verbose, this PPT. So please go through and try to read it. It is not for presenting here in the auditorium, but it is for you to understand the different concepts. So where MongoDB is used, what it is, who's using. You see there? Cisco, Shutterfly, Adobe, Ericsson, really big companies are using MongoDB. How to install? Terminology. Like I said, right? You see that there? First name Mary, last name, cell, city. Cell is nothing but mobile, it's a very old data. Location, profession, all that we have as key value pairs. And some of the keys here actually have another object as its value, like location has again key value pair. So all this is possible. If you see coordinates there, it's not a key value pair, it's an array. So in most cases, everybody, a collection is usually a key value pair, right? And what else? Key is a string always. Value can be anything. It could be another object, it could be an array of object, it could be an array of simple numbers, it could be anything, right? On the left side, you see here, the same thing if we had to do. You see, you'll have to establish a foreign key. You have one row with the information of the user, then we pick that ID, put it in another table with the user ID and the profession, again the same ID with the user ID. So the same information is connected. There is a relationship between all these tables. That is one of the reasons why it's called relational database. Okay, let me not bore you guys. Now again, these are the days of having everything on cloud. So we have Atlas, where you can create our MongoDB databases and create our collections, right? Why Atlas? Now I remember telling in the last session, please try to understand what is vertical scaling and horizontal scaling, right? If you add up the servers like that, it is vertical. Add more processing. But if you can scale them, have multiple, and then have them all as a cluster and talking to each other, it is horizontal. Please make a note and understand that is one of the interview questions. how is MongoDB different from Oracle or any other languages? Scaling, how robust it is, and availability and security, everything. All these are the important things, right? Backup and restore is also less, serverless instances, we talked about them in the last session. Now, how many of you have an Atlas account here? Front everybody. There in that quadrant, you all have an Atlas account? There please, at the last. Did you all sign up with Atlas? Okay. So, that is all. Now, let us go. I am focusing more on the implementation part today. Like to go and, so here I go EPS, in class, day 18. All right, everybody. In the last class, right, in day 17, in the routes, I showed you how you can have public folder and how you can have different types of data. Right? We had 2 JSON files there. Let me try and show you what this one has. These are the same movies that we talked about in the last session. Everybody, kindly look at the screen. What I'm going to do now is I'd like to show how to get this into a database. So far we have been using this file, the JSON file, inside our JavaScript or along with JavaScript or like in last class in the public folder of JavaScript, but the data is not going to be with the backend, right? It's going to be in the database. So today we are going to understand. I'm going to go over the important things that I think you all must know, right? But I will not be covering the whole thing. I'll give you hints. I'll share links also, okay? Now, first and foremost, how many of you here have MongoDB installed in their laptop? Not Atlas, but MongoDB. Most of them, there too in that quadrant, okay. So with MongoDB, when you're installing, you get an option saying install Compass. Did you all install Compass? COMPASS, Compass? Not many? Okay. So it's okay, you can install it separately. Please do not do it now, do it at a later date. For today, understand what Compass is, how you can use it, just do that please, okay? Don't go and install. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up MongoDB. MongoDB, before Atlas was there, MongoDB we installed locally on our computer and worked on it, right? So your front end was in the computer, back end was running in the computer, database was also on the computer in your laptop. Now let's see how it looks like and what it is. Ideally, what would you think? Anything that is supposed to store a database, it will have some UI, right? It will also have an option to access it from shell, from command prompt. But here, Compass is nothing but a user interface or a tool that is provided by the MongoDB folks for us to communicate easily with the database. I repeat, Compass is just a tool, right? It will be good to write in your resume, but not a big deal actually. But Compass is there. We'll also see how we can work on shell and all. Now another important thing, please note, whichever language you are working in, whether it is Java, whether it's PHP, whichever language you are working with, C++, you always need a connection string and a driver from code, right? So if you are using, let's say, MySQL editor, there are many editors and tools out there, right? Even for accessing the RDBMSs. For all those, what does it say? Show me the database where it is, give me the connection string, I'll work on it. Or create a database and I'll take it. So from the tool also you can get the connection string. From Atlas also you can get the connection string. Use that connection string to access from code, right? Now what we are going to do today is it is saying, do you want me to, this tool, right? From code you have a connection string. Even with this tool, you have a connection string. So you can type it up there, but by default, it picks up MongoDB : // Are you able to see it? Let me just zoom it a little bit. Everybody, it says new connection. Can you all close your laptops if possible? If you're not able to focus, close your laptops please. If you're not able to focus, close your laptops. Now here's the thing. Compass is the tool that we use to access the local MongoDB that is running on my computer. It is also a tool that can be used to access my remote Atlas DB from my computer. I don't like the remote Atlas DBs appearance, right? It is, let's say it's very small, I can't see the documents. I can always give the connection string. Remember the connection string that I showed? I can always give the connection string here and connect to my remote database. I repeat, if somebody asks you, can Compass be used or how do you talk to your remote database, that is Atlas database? You can always say, I have the connection string locally in my Compass and I talk to it. So Compass is your middleman between your local database and your remote database. Now here, another important thing that you all must know is, like I told you, 3000 is for CRA, 4000 or 5000 is for the backend. MongoDB, it runs at port 27017. Now this is fixed. Now when I say that this is fixed, it doesn't mean that you cannot modify it. There are ways going into configuration and things like that, but ideally it always runs as 2707, right? I know it's a little lengthier and a little trickier, but anyway, so 2707, and I say save. Here you have a save and connect option, right? So what am I connecting to now? I'm connecting to my local database, right? I have a few, I've been working, so there are a few databases right there in my local thing also. What is the first thing? Now can you all tell me? I told you there is one very interesting difference between MongoDB databases and RDBMS or other databases. What is that? With respect to collections? What is that interesting thing about MongoDB collections or MongoDB database and other database? That is one thing that is very interesting, that is different. In MongoDB, whenever you are trying to create a database, you must create a collection, right? Now let's see. Without collection, if you create it, the database will not be there. It disappears. I'm going to show you quickly what I mean, right? So here I have everybody databases. The UI is very, very simple and very straightforward. So I say create a database. Remember in Atlas also I showed create a database. Here I'm going to say EPS. Okay, let me keep it in low, EPS 2. Okay, you see the create database is not active. It's still disabled. Why? I have to have a database. So I'll just say check. Now it is active, I say create database. This is one very important rule. You cannot create a MongoDB database without having a collection. Now let me go here please. So EPS and check is there, right? Now aggregations, schema, indexes, validation. All these are the second level of Mongo database, MongoDB features, meaning you can aggregate stuff, you can look at the schemas, indexes. We will not be going over there, please. Okay, that is a separate MongoDB course altogether. What I'd like to show is how to add data real quick. Add data, insert document. You might think insert document, it is expecting you a document. No, it just shows you a screen where it tells you, okay, here is the ID. What do you want to insert? So I want to say comma. You can see the ID underscore ID came by default. So in MongoDB, underscore ID is there for all objects, right? So this is at OID. You see that there? Now here I say, remember JSON format, name, and I'll say Stephen Hawking, let's say, right? And say insert. Done. Now I can edit it, I can copy, I can clone it. Clone is nothing but duplicate. So Stephen Hawking, again let's say insert, right? Again, if I want to clone again, I click on that clone, and you must see these two interesting things. So you have this format, or if you can write it like that also, just do a plus. It's a little tricky, but then if your mouse is really good and you can get into the small tiny areas, you can always click plus and add the fields. Like that you can add as many fields, okay? But this one here, I'd like you all to use only this one please, the object notation, right? Don't go over the string notation. That's all for amateurs who are not into, you know how to create object, right? So you just go here, remember to put a comma and then add it, right? You see it did not, when I created it as a clone or anything, the object ID is not there. So it generates object ID, okay? Now I can go on there. So this is check. Now look at what I'm going to do, please everybody to the screen. I click on these 3 dots here and I'm going to say drop collection. Yeah, I'm going to say drop collection. This is an interesting thing where it asks me to type it up to make sure it's not by mistake. I say drop collection. Now look at that. Do you see EPS2? No. So in MongoDB, you need to have a collection for the database to have any validity or for the database to appear. It's a little sad. It doesn't have an identity without the collection, right? If you look at it in a different angle, it feels very sad. Like, poor thing, if it doesn't have a collection, there is no identity of it. But anyway, I'll create one more and say EPS again, and then I'll give a collection name as check, let's say. So it is advised that by default, you have one check collection in your database and never touch it. That way, how many ever collections you create and delete, that one check collection remains and the database remains. Otherwise, it will disappear, right? Now, here we go. So we did that, right? Where is that EPS again? Check is there. Now, I want to create a collection. I need you all to focus. Please look at the screen. I want to create a collection called movies, okay? And say create collection. Collection is created. I want to go to the second option, first option. Earlier I did the insert document. Now I already have the movies document. Remember from the Shawshank Redemption and all that we had last time? I want to get that in. So I'm going to do import JSON and pick data.json. Okay? You can have different options here. Do you want to stop on errors and all? We'll see. But for now, let's go the ideal way, okay? And I say import, right? Now you see here, I hope you are able to see at the bottom there, object ID by default. Let us compare. Everybody, please look at the screen. You see that there? The way I created the JSON is an object with one key that has an array of objects, right? So how do you think it's going to be in the database? You see that there? This is an object, one key which is movies. Inside that, I have all my key value pairs. What? There, right? All that are there. But ideally, you know, if it makes sense for you, like in your project, let's say you have movies here and screen captures here and some more, then it makes sense. But in our case, the collection itself is what? Is a collection of movies. It's not like I'm going to add one more here saying something else. This collection itself is a collection of movies. So what I want to do is I wanted to store all these things as documents, not as one key and many objects like that. Okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go here. Everyone, we create one more collection. I'm just showing you real quick. Data and this is array, okay? Or yeah, let's leave it like that. Done? So I just want these as my documents and not movies. Movies is the name of my collection. So I'm going to go here, click on plus again and say movies again, create collection, right? Let me make sure. So in data array, how do I want it, please? I don't want this at all. Okay? Again, let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, you can always fix it. Done? Data array.json. Let me see. Import JSON. Select, import. You see that there? 1 to 4 of 4 records. So each of that has been, each of these is one record. You see that? So this is how. Why am I talking about this option or this thing at length? The reason being, whenever you get a JSON file, it could be a CSV or JSON, in most cases we import the data or we export the data, right? Somebody gives you the data. So you make sure you have an array of objects for each object to be a single row like that, right? Otherwise, if you have movies and something, then it's assumed that you're going to have one more called drama and something. You see what I'm saying? One more key value pair. But if it's just one, then just have the collection name as that and have. Okay? Now you can also export the data. This is one of the things where you can take a backup. Let's say you're working on a project. Every 1 week, you could run a script, but even better, or not even better, but simpler way for you because you have just begun is every day just export the full collection or export query results, up to you what you want to do. Now Compass, this tool has evolved so much over the years. There's so much to learn from it. Please put some time whenever you get a chance, take a course and see how MongoDB Compass works, okay? This is free. Like I said, aggregation schema, indices and all, these are all things that you'll have to learn it a little later. It's a separate course by itself. Now, right now. So we have this, right? So you must be thinking, okay, now we have our database locally running, right? Now, is it always the UI? Do I always have to, so how do I query it? I can query it by writing queries here. You see that filters and you can type the query, we can do that. But there's another very interesting thing that I want you all to check out. Again, everybody, could you please look at the screen, please? Now we have seen how to create the collections, how to insert documents. If you want to query them, you type the query here, right? You can do it at your own time. You can find, you want to explain. Now, very soon, I think if you get the latest version, it will have the GenAI version also. So there will be a GPT or some sort of a help on top right or somewhere. Let's not get there. You see that you can open the export to a language, many things that you can do, right? But here's what I want you all to know. Real quick, everybody at the last, here, there, real quick. At the bottom you see, it's called Mongo Shell. If somebody says, did you work with Mongo Shell or have you just used Compass and then have you just written code from your, Express.js, wherever the methods are, did you just write code there by creating schema, model, find one, find and update and all? Or do you know how to actually query the database? When you say, do you know how to actually query the database, they mean, do you know how to write your queries at shell, the black window, right? This is always cool to work on it. Now, how do you work? Let me try to really, like I said, this is all a separate course by itself. We could have Mongo Shell and all the queries one class we could have, but then we are only looking at the project's specific stuff. So, you see, the moment you type it, remember guys, Oracle was the MySQL or the SQL structured query language. That was in English. That was also built in America, but that was many, many years ago, right? By people who were working on Linux and those computers. This one came very recently, right? 15, 20 years ago or 15 years ago max, right? MongoDB. So, not even 15, maybe less, but so, the language that we use to query it is very simple. So you type show and say databases. It gives you all the databases that are there. You want to work on a database, you say use. Which one do I want to use? Let's say I want to use college. Now you must be thinking, what is it? That is a database. I type, it says switch to DB college, right? Now when I say, now I want to, from this in this college I want to check if it's the right database or not. I want to see the collections that are there. See that? Show collections. When we started learning, this automatically, the IntelliSense was not there. So we had to refer and type and understand. Now, if you type it, it is automatically suggesting what you want to do, right? The IntelliSense part. So it says, use college, switch to DB college, show collections. There is only one collection, students. Looks like there's no faculty in this college. So we have only students here. So now I want to query this. So the way you see, the moment I said use college, at the prompt I see college. You see that? So it's telling me that you are currently working on the database college. Now I'll say, I want to check what is in the students. So db.students, right? It's just saying that. So what should I say now? In the DB, in this collection, I want to find things. So I'll say db.students, take that, .find. It is always like that, please. It is not like you have select star from table where so and so, select star from table where group by this, select star from table where group by order by, no. We are not, it is not structured query language. This is not SQL, it is simple MongoDB querying. So you say current database .students.find and you just leave it there. You see that? I got all the objects that are there. If I want to look for this particular student, I'll just say db.students.find. Remember everybody, please remember, we are working with JavaScript. It's all JavaScript. So any information that we have to give has to be in JSON format. Any information that we get is in the JSON format. So here I go, I say exclamation and say, I want a student. You see, in curly brackets I am mentioning. So whatever you are trying to query, that should be given in curly brackets. Name, SP, looks like I pressed on the key a little too much. What happened? Find name, return location, position, there is nothing there. Why? Because this is not the JSON format, you have to have a colon, right? Name is this. What did I get? Nothing. Did I get any error? Nothing. Did it say 0 students returned or 0 rows returned or 0 documents returned? Nothing. Here is where the understanding of JavaScript becomes a little irritating, okay, at least to me. So you should tell me that column name does not exist. For people like me who come from Oracle or from MySQL and all that, it very clearly mentions as a syntax error. I don't understand this column name. Column name is not found. But here it doesn't say. Why? The reason is it doesn't say because it doesn't show errors like that. It just understands that you are looking for something that I don't have. But it doesn't say that column name that you are looking for is not available. So here you see N is capital, uppercase. I put N as small case. See that? Now I got the record. So with this whole exercise, what I am trying to tell you are 2-3 important things. One, get into a habit of using shell. Don't use Compass too much. Check Compass only to see if the records have been incremented or not. When you are adding from Thunder Client or when you are working with the whole front and back and the whole thing, check it to see if the information is there, if the records are getting updated. But get into a practice of writing queries, right? So this is where you write the queries in shell. Get into the habit of understanding the commands, right? So use shell as much as possible, get into a habit of using that, check Compass only for that. But remember, connecting to different local or remote, you still have to use Compass. I'll show you, I mean it's good to use Compass, I'll show how that is done. The other thing that I'm trying to get at is the querying part. It doesn't give errors, doesn't mean that whatever code you have written is correct. You must have a spelling mistakes in what you are looking for in the filter. You must have a spelling mistake in the column name, right? So make sure that you are checking for all those things, right? Now this, like I told you, the whole querying can go on and on for quite some time, but I'd leave it, that is for, you will most definitely have a WT subject and you'll be taught there, so you don't have to worry much about this. Now let's move on. So we looked at creating a database. There. We looked at creating a database. I told you how database can have collections. I told you how if you don't have any collections, the database will disappear. I showed you how to import the data. I showed you how to add a data. I showed you how you can import data which is in an array. I showed you how you can import data in a JSON file, of course, but not as an array, but a key and the values are all in arrays. How that gets imported, how you have a plain array, how that gets imported, how you can clone, edit, duplicate. You've seen all that, right? And I have also showed you the shell. Now, let us zoom out a little bit, okay? You know how when you go for Google Earth, anybody tried Google Earth here? How many of you tried Google Earth? Only so many? Isn't it fun? I still go to my old places and look them up on Google Earth and go to that street view and check how the streets are now in that place. Anyway, that's a little weird though, right? So, what I'm trying to tell you is, let's zoom out and see. So, right now, what am I connected to? MongoDB I am connected to, but where is it, please? It's in my computer, right? In my computer, I have MongoDB server installed. So you must be thinking, localhost colon 27017, that looks like it's a server. Yes, please. Your database also needs a server for it to fetch information, and MongoDB is that. You have your databases, it is running at 27017, and if somebody wants some information, it will give you that. That will be taken by your Express.js server. That again will be given to your Create React app, the React server, and there it will display it. The React app will display it. Okay, now let me not confuse you. So here, you see, copy connection string is there, right? Now let me show you the other way. Most of you have already done it. Disconnect, right? Now I'd like to connect to my Atlas database and bring it or have a link. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to connect to my database, Atlas database, and fetch from there. Many of you might know this already, but this is for all those who do not know. I'm going to go here, right, mongodb.com. So far we have created everything locally. Now I'm going to show you. You're all signed up on Atlas, I believe. We did it in last class itself. I sent you a message also. So you all have access to MongoDB. What are the 3 important things about Atlas that we must remember? Did we go over Atlas in the last session? Did I show network access and all that? No. Okay. Everybody please look at it. So above databases is a cluster. Cluster has many databases, right? Here, guys, please focus, look at the screen. Everybody. I'll just boil it down to 2 to 3 main things so that you'll remember well, right? You'll be taught it as a subject, but 2 to 3 things that are very, very important about Atlas. You must know where to get the connection string from. Last quadrant there, please focus, guys. Whatever I'm going to tell you now is going to save half hour or so in troubleshooting later on for you when you're trying to access Mongo. Okay? Remember, 3 things. 1 is to where to get the connection string from. We saw that. I told you that for Compass, for any tool to access any database, it needs that connection string. Even from code, if you want to talk to your MongoDB, you need a connection string. So where do I get that connection string? That is the important thing. I'll show you now. Next, how do you create users? Just with connection string, you can't talk to a database. You need a user who has the read-write privileges or read privileges on that database. How do you do that? Second important thing. Third important thing is where actually my collections are. That, right? Now I'll add one more, okay? Fourth important thing is how to make sure that your database is accessible from anywhere. What do I mean by that? This is above connection string. You can have all the first 3. Your users, your collections, your connection string. These 3 can be there, but your database might still be not accessible. How will the database be not accessible? When you tell Atlas that accept requests only from this location. Now you must be thinking, but when do we say that? So, how many things please? 4 important things. First, let me go and show where you can get the connection string from, right? The connect here, you see that? The moment you sign up and you are there, the connect here, drivers, you see that? So if you want to access this database from Compass, you go here and copy this URL. Click on that, and where do you paste it? In MongoDB, new connection, you paste it. I think it is, let me try, user 1, I think. If it doesn't work, we'll fix it, nothing to worry. You see from my Compass, yeah, there we go. That's simple, guys. You just go to, where do you go? You go to connect here, right? It opens up. I go to Compass. You see that? If you want to connect from shell, they have a procedure. If you have a MongoDB for VS Code, we don't want to do this, please, never. Atlas SQL, another tool, we don't want to. Compass, yes. So I clicked on that. It gave me a connection string. I copied that connection string, and these placeholders are there, right? Username and password. Those I modified, right? So do we all know where to get the connection string from? Yes or no? How many of you know where to get the connection string from? Please raise your hand. Thank you, guys. The first ones are always very nice. What about the last quadrant? Yes, no, yes? Okay. We click on connect and get the connection string. Now the second thing, the username and password I talked about, right? So you go to, you see that there? On the left side under security, if you want to make notes, you can make notes, please. There's something called as database access. You go there and say add new database user. Okay? Click on that, give everything that you need. It will ask you for the role. Add a built-in role. What role do you want? Do you want this to be an admin? Read, write, only read any database. Right? These are the three very common things. You don't want people to delete your stuff on your database. You can create a user that is only read only. Understood everybody? So I covered the second one here. First is where to connect, where you get the connection string. Second is where are the usernames and passwords, where are the users created or how you can create. Now, third was where I can get my collections. Let me go back to my cluster. You see, it is not very intuitive, but on the main screen itself, you have browse collections. You click on that. Though it says browse collections, of course collections are part of database, right? So it's going to list all the database that I have, and in each database it will show me the collection. See that there? MyDB, meal plan, Rio Grande, students. I have the students here too. Inventory. Looks like this time I'm managing the inventory of students. So this is all. Okay? So you see how small the screen is? It's not that great to work with. So what do? I go here, I check, see students, check inventory and work on this. I can work here, it will automatically get updated to my main database on Atlas. Everybody understood the link? So this is the importance of Atlas. Now let me go back. So we have one, what do we have? First is where to get the connection string from. Second is where to get where to add users, which is in the network database access here. Third is where to look for the collections. And fourth important point is network access. This is what I was talking about. At a very high level, if you look up in your collection or in your MongoDB Atlas, if you do not see this, your current IP address of your laptop, whatever you are connected to, is being stored, please. So ideally, Atlas says you are a student or a developer working. So I'll grab your IP address of your laptop and store it on my side. So I'll take requests only from you, only from your laptop. But that sometimes creates issues, because let's say you are connected through your friend's mobile data, your mobile data, another Wi-Fi, college Wi-Fi, many things like that. Then what happens? It will not understand and you will not know why it is rejecting the connection. Main reason is because you did not make it public. So you can always say, make my IP open, make it public. And how do you know it is made public? When you have 0.0.0.0, this is across all platforms, across servers, please. Right? Meaning, you go to any other language, any other database, you have public access, the database has public access, you will see that in the access list, you have this IP. 40 IP, if it's there, it means that that's open for public. Done? So, here we go. The database are done. I told you the 4 important things about Atlas. I showed you how to connect from Compass to Atlas. I showed you inserting, updating, right? Inserting and inserting from a regular doc or inserting from a JSON. All that is done. Now let's go and connect to this. Everyone, we have come a long way. Today is most definitely the last session. If time permits, we'll have one more session. We'll do a marathon kind of a thing. But today most definitely will be the last session of embedded learning. Okay. Now here is where I want to get your attention. I need you all to understand how we have progressed over so many sessions. We started with HTMLs and all, but in terms of data also, from I think 4th or 5th class, we gave you a file and said, we gave you data inside the script tag, like a key value pair, right? Then we said, take it out and create a JSON file. Then we said, now run it on a server, use fetch. Then we said, get it onto the Express.js side, right? Then on Express.js side also, create a public folder and put it there and read from it. Now, I have moved that data to where? To the MongoDB database. Now I want to talk to that and get information. This is how it works in real world. The data is never with you, either in the front end or in the back end. It is on the database server. Now, let's see if we can start on it. I'm going to create a new folder, right? And I'm going to call it as Express Mongo. Okay? Now let me go here. Now who will tell me how do I create a Node.js project out of it? How to create a Node.js project? npm init, very good. So you go, open up CMD, say npm init, right? Entry point, I'll just leave it there. Okay, now done. I have my node project. Now I'll cd into it. Except I'm already there, right? Now, what do I need to make this node project an Express project? I need Express. So I'm going to say, first let me go check. Yeah, package.json is created. Show more options. Open with code. Package.json. You see, no dependencies, nothing. Very clean and neat, right? I'm going to go and say, boss, I want it to be a backend server. So I'll say npm I express. Okay. Now if I look at it, you see that dependencies got added and express.js got added. All set. Now I want to create the server. So I'll go here, do a server.js real quick, right? What do I do? You know what we do, right? Let me just write some comments. Get express, get instance, right? Listen at 4000. Okay. Show a message saying it is listening. Okay, will not write it. Now somewhere in the middle, I want it to connect to database. Done. This is it. So now I'm going to go get express. So people use const, you can also use const. I'll get an instance of express. How do I do that? Require and say express. express. Done. Now I want to get an instance of it and call it as app. So I'll say express, right there. That will get me an instance of the app. And you all know, for us to do post request, we always use the middleware, which is express.json, right? To make sure that it's reading everything. Now get instance is done, right? The middleware part is done. In the last class itself, I showed you how to write different middleware functions, connect to database, right? Now everybody, there are two ways, please. I explained in last class, I'll repeat, two ways. One is directly talking to your collections, and we use Mongo client for that. And we directly talk to collections, and the query that we write is exactly same as the query that we write in Mongo shell. Remember here, whatever we wrote, we can write these on using Mongo client package and get done with it, right? But the better way of using it is Mongoose, where we have a schema, model. So if people cannot directly hit the database, directly hit the collections and delete, there is a proper way, okay? Let me give you a simple example. I have a collection that expects 5 values, and I want to impose those 5 values as compulsory things, or the structure must be 5 at least, right? Or in most cases it is always 5. Let's say I'm adding a student with 5 values. If I use Mongo client and took the values from front end, I could insert it directly. But if I use Mongoose, because I have a schema and a model, it ensures that you have all those 5 values. You can say required, 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 required. It makes sure, otherwise it will not save to the database. So with using Mongoose, using schema and models, we add a sort of systematic approach or discipline to the whole storage, okay? Without that, if you use Mongo client, I think it is in mongodb.com, in documentation, resources, developer, Atlas documentation, right? Here, manage, get started, create and connect to clusters, all right? They keep changing, this is pretty nascent, so they keep changing everything. But you see that? Computer use case and feature, create a cluster, serverless instance and all. You could do all this, please. Via Mongoose, you see the different ones. No, I want to show you from MongoDB client. Let's see if we can. MongoDB client. Okay. MongoDB client and get manager PHP library. I think it went too deep into the whole client thing. But basically in the documentations, guys, I'll figure out. They have changed the UI again. I'll share a link using which it's about 15 lines of code. That's all. Using client, you can directly connect and fetch information. Okay. So here, what we need is Mongoose. Again, it's a package. I'm going to say Mongoose, npm i Mongoose. So it's going to install that. Done. Right? Now, server.js. Before I go to connect, I want to make sure that I'm listening, okay? So app.listen there, and I'll say what? Port at 4000, express always, right? Then I have my callback. I'll quickly type up console.log. Very simple. Backend server running at port 4000. Control S. I go to Thunder client. Before that, let me start the server. npm. Can I say npm start? What do you say, guys? Can I say npm start? Will it start the server? No. Why not? Because I didn't add that script there. So let me go here and say start. And I want to use nodemon because I don't want to start it every so often. Nodemon server.js. Done. Now I'll go say npm start. What does it say? Middleware is not defined. Reference middleware. Middleware server.js 6. Let me go. Okay. This should have been commented. Right? Backend server running at port 4000. Now we are good. Right? Now let me use Mongoose and say mongoose.connect. Right? Here is where I'm going to give the connection string. Right? So first, yeah, I'm going to give the connection string. Let me go here. This is what, please? This is my connection to the remote database, right? Look carefully. I can always go click on these 3 dots and say copy connection string. Okay? And I can paste it there. Right? But I want to connect to the local database. Okay? So I'm just going to say connect. It's like Windows. You go to connect to disconnect. You go to start to shut down. So I disconnected, right? So I'm connecting to local now, right? Let me connect to local. Done. I go to connect again. Sorry, I go to 3 dots, copy connection string and paste it here, right? If this, again everybody, I'm going real quick and I'm going in a simpler way. But ideally you would have a try, catch, if the connection happened or not and all that. So if I'd come this far, it most definitely connected, right? So I'm going to say connected to DB. Okay? DB at, I'll just say done. You see that? Connected to DB at localhost 2707. So now if I write my schema and model and if I try to connect, it will automatically connect to that. I'll give some time for that. Meanwhile, I'd like you all to put your own connection string. Let me go here. Again, please look at this. Where do I get the connection string from, everybody? Where do I get the connection string for my database on Atlas? Here's an important thing, please. Something that you must remember. Browse collections. Sorry. The connection string comes from the connect button. You press the connect button and we get it from there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get that connection string. Okay? Let connection string equals this. Now I'm connecting to the complete server, MongoDB server, but I need to be connecting to the specific database, right? I'll see that too. But for now, to local database, right? Next is I want to connect to remote database. Remote database on Atlas. Done? Everybody, the connection string is always needed to connect, right? But there is nothing special. Same connection string, the string is different here, that's all. Everything else is same. So I go sign in. Meanwhile, please start working, do an npm init, get your server up and running. MongoDB, once it displays, click on connect like I showed you earlier. In the connect, at the top you will see drivers, and below that you will see, all the different tools that you can connect to. It's taking forever for some reason. Let's see if test is available. Okay, let's see. Anyway, guys, so you click on connect here. There, drivers. I go here, copy it from here, MongoDB, and go to my code and paste it there. Control V. You see that? The complete cluster. Now, what was the username and password? I'm going to go here, say username is that. Remember, anything that you have to replace or anything that's a placeholder is enclosed in less than and greater than symbol, please. Username and password is that for me. There. So let's see. Control S. Now I want to connect to a specific database. I'll have to give that here between / and question mark. Everybody please look at the screen. Apart from username, password, the database name should go here after .NET, right? What databases do I have? I'll click on browse collections. I have many databases. I think there is a student and there's a college database also. So let me go here and type in college. Okay. So now the only new thing is installing Mongoose, getting the connection string, saying Mongoose, please connect. Mongoose.connect that. Right? You see that there? Let me do a clear screen so you can see it clearly. Connected to DB. At localhost 2707 it says because that is what I wrote. But ideally, I should get the connection string or just say connected to DB. I think I'll leave it there. That's all. You see, connected to DB. I changed it just now, restarted. So there were no problems. Ideally, you would have a try catch and all that, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this and put some dummy stuff. There. You see? Everybody kindly look at the screen, please. What does it say? Bad auth, authentication failed, Atlas error, all that. Because it could not connect with it. It gave me this big error because I don't have a try-catch block. If I had created a nice try-catch block and in catch if I had said error while connecting to the database, I would see just that, right? Code 8000. It gave everything. Now let me change it back to what it was and do a control save and go back here. See that? Crashed, but now it is connected to DB. So we are sure now it is connected to the remote database. Now I am going to share this file with you. The next thing that we are going to do is put the collection in the local database. I've already shown how it needs to be done, and see if we can read from there using simple schema. Okay, we'll do that. Meanwhile, I'll share the code with you. You start working on it, and let's hope that course material will not give a problem today. There's not much code here. I hope you all have submitted your exercise. Select the course, select the topic, done, display, choose file. Please try these things on your side. first is I'm giving you these two. Actually, let me just give you the server, okay? Let me also add the data.json and data array.json. Okay, just one for now. Data array.json. Done. Oh, only one at a time? Okay, I'm sorry guys. Express Mongo, server.js. Hold on, I forgot. Connection string is mine. Please connect to your local one. Done. Everyone, please go ahead, download that file. If I remember right, last time I shared with you the movies list, right? So you should be able to get that too. Everyone, this whatever we are doing now, it's not going to break anything as such. Nothing is going to happen. You can just delete the database. So feel free to play around. Upload a data array, upload a data-array.json, just data.json. Just check to see how it displays. Okay? I'll give you about 5 minutes for you to work on this. Okay? So remember I told you how you can create a database here, local. Create a database here please. Call it movies or movies DB. To that import the array that I sent. The record should look like this. All of those records should be like this in the array. Now let's look at server.js. What we expect from you, or what the file that I gave to you, it connects. You see that here? Please everybody look at the screen once. In the connection string, at the end here, I have given the database name, movies DB. So in your local system, you should have this movies DB with the collection movies. Let me first show you. So the connection string is that I have connected. I have written a simple fetch all movies connection method. What does it do? It simply does movie.find. You must be thinking, you just gave the database name. Which collection, what, how does it know? What I have not discussed yet is this one. I have created a schema for the movies. You see that? It's a very simple schema. Remember in the movies we had an ID, a title and a year. Done? We have already done this earlier. I'm just showing to you again. I created a schema. I think I didn't share this file. I'll share this file in course material in a minute. So this is the movie schema that I have imported and called it a movie. So now the database, now the Express.js has made a connection with the backend. It knows now that when it goes to movies DB, it should see something by the name movies. Why? Because it's always plural. Whatever is the model name, the plural of it gets stored. So there is something called as movies. So it will go connect to that and keep it ready. Now here when I call fetch all movies, it's going to go to this function and say movie.find. So on this model, see that? Let's go there. Guys, this is your schema. Using this schema, we have created a model, called it a movie. So every time or any time in my code, I want to talk to this collection, I'll get this model. On this model only I'll talk. I'll call the methods movie.find, movie.create, movie.whatever, and automatically Mongoose takes care of doing the appropriate action. So I have movie here. So I went to server.js, said movie.find, right? That's all. Remember, when we say find with nothing inside it, it returns everything that is there in that collection. So now this is going to bring me all movies. I'm just printing all those movies. I put them in a try catch, and finally I'm disconnecting from the database, mongoose.disconnect. Perfect example of how you should use finally to disconnect from the database. So this is what it is. Let me quickly share this with you. The schema as well. Make sure it is in models folder, please. Mongo. More course material. Meanwhile, get the server, update the server.js with what I shared in course material. The models folder will be along with the package.json. It should be right under your project, please. You see here, node modules, and I have model. That is where it should be. Movie schema. upload file. Please use that. Save and display. Done. I'll create an exercise out of it and share it with you. But for now, get this working, please. Please get it working. Again, download the schema, store it in the models, the movie schema, store it in the models folder. Get the latest server file that I shared. Get it. How many of you got it working? How many of you are able to see in console.log? I'll show you. So what happens? Everything, when you say npm start, because in my fetch all movies, I wrote it to the console.log. You see here, all movies, all that is there in the database has come. If you want to play around, you can go here and instead of find, in curly brackets, you can put an ID or an year, right? Or a name, and then it will return only that. But because, remember everybody, this is backend. It is supposed to write to the response and send you back. I did not get there yet. Okay? Please get this working and then we'll check. How many of you got it working? Anybody got it working? Displaying it at the console? Not yet? Okay. How many got it working, please? Please raise your hand. 1, 2 here, there. Are you all able to see? Is there a problem? I think I just opened the files up. Remember to store the schema file in the models folder. Make sure you have server.js. Make sure you have a database by that name, moviesdb. Make sure your movies database has those movies by that array. You just make sure you import that array. I know it's going to take some time.